So, a couple things we're going to get to tonight. They're going to be fun. They're going to be exciting. We're going to keep it loose tonight on a Friday night. I'm not going to be on super long. So I want to do a really cool video and talk to you guys about something that I thought would be fun. So, we're going to talk about Captain Marvel and what I think. So for those of you that have seen or haven't seen Captain Marvel, what's up, Samato Kid? You may or may not want to tune in. I'm not going to put too many spoilers out there. What's up, Frank? I'm not going to put too many spoilers out there, but we're definitely going to talk a little bit of Marvel superheroes because I just got off the phone with Tony and he got me all fired up. I went last night. So usually when a movie comes out on the weekends, Semi-Auto Kid, Thursday night's the first showing. So, Captain Marvel fits in kind of right before the Avengers series. So they're kind of in the lineage. Oh, Marvel, you're a superhero? What the fuck does that even mean? What the fuck does that even mean? That's scary, man. So, Captain Marvel fits in right before all the Avengers movies. So it's kind of like a prequel. Yeah, what the fuck does that mean, Semi-Auto Kid? It's weird, dude. It's kind of a prequel, but not really a prequel, because it just follows that, almost like, it just falls into the timeline. I don't even look at anything as prequels or anything like that. It fills in the gaps in your head as to what you're missing. So, how she gets Ant-Man out. I don't think she gets Ant-Man out. So, yeah, you'll have to... That's not in the movie. So, spoiler, that's not in the movie. That has nothing to do with it. If you didn't see Ant-Man and the Wasp, that would have answered a few of your questions. So, here's the thing. So, Captain Marvel fits in almost like a prequel. And it's interesting. First of all, I heard all the news. Let's back up. Before this movie, a lot of people were really kind of at odds with the characters and who was going to star in it and the way it was all going to be laid out and just all of it. So they took a lot of heat for the casting, for the way it's just all played out. So they answer that too in the movie. It's yes, it's Marvel, but she says I prefer Marvel. So, yeah, but when you're being weird on Instagram, bro, and you're typing, there's no context. So you have to be careful with how weird you get when there's no context. There's no emphasis. So, we'll forgive you, but strange. So, they answer that in the movie too. The name obviously is a hat tip to Marvel, which I'll get to the quirkiness and weirdness of all that. So Brie Larson plays Captain Marvel. And she took a lot of heat because she was trying to make this, I don't know if she was trying to make it like a pro-women's movie by saying she didn't care if men went. She was being very weird towards her critics and just everything else. She put some comments out there, some statements out there that met with some controversy, and it just was what it was. Brie Larson, I think, had good intentions. I think she was just trying to get some marketing or some, hype around the movie. And people do that. I think we all know that in this room. People say some shit and do some shit just for attention and just for hype. And they try to do like publicity stunts. And I think she did some publicity stunts to try to see if it would get anywhere. So Brie Larson plays Captain Marvel, or Marvel, depending on how you want to position it. And she's good in the role. Okay, Tony and I battle about this because he's a big movie guy, and she's good in the role. I think she's the right age. I think she's the right everything for the role. I hate when they cast people that they're too old looking. Like people were talking about Charlize Theron being in the movie, and I was like, get the fuck out of here. So, you know, you can't have that. I think she's the right everything for the movie. And what they do is they do a deep dive into the formation of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the formation of a lot of the components that become what we know the Avengers universe to be today. So you start to see like that birth of S.H.I.E.L.D., that birth of all these different things in the movie. And you see that play out, which I'm not giving you any spoiler alerts because it's a prequel. So it predates a lot of things. Now, with that being said, it's an interesting movie. And it takes a lot of very interesting twists and turns and, you know, everything else in between. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good popcorn. All in all, I think the effects were awesome. I think it did its job of telling the story. What I didn't like about it is sooner or later, and I had this thought, and I want to get you guys' thoughts on this. And this happened with the Batman movies, and we've seen this happen with other series, and not so much Batman the Dark Knight, the other Batmans, is they start to get campy because they try to please everybody. So we saw this, X-Men started to go this, X-Men was actually like this in the first one. They start to get very campy. And I felt like this was like a very campy hat tip to Captain Marvel. And, you know, I mean, they do a good job given her background and all that. It sort of is what it is. But I do think there was a little bit of camp involved. You don't have to go far to see a lot of Captain Marvel's history. You can go online. There's things like Wikipedia available where you can see a lot of, you know, the breakdown of where she comes from, a little bit of her backstory. People do that. You can see some of that. And you can get some insight into kind of where that's all born and where the ideas come from. Now, with that being said, they do a deep dive into a lot of the history of Nick Fury. So Agent Fury, Nick Fury, whatever you want to do. So they do a deep dive into that, and you get kind of a snapshot of S.H.I.E.L.D., and you can get plenty of information on Nick Fury and kind of how that all breaks down online as well. There's Wikipedia. There's a whole breakdown of where his comics start. And I do recommend, before going and see some of these movies, if you're a little bit of a junkie for this stuff, do a little bit of research. Understand the character a little bit. You know, a lot of people are talking about the S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show. The S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show is something totally different. I don't know, again, when you get into things like the TV shows and the spin-offs, I don't know if those are acknowledged canon of the Marvel Universe. I'm not 100% sure. I know a lot of them have been cut from Netflix. And I'm not sure if they're acknowledged canon or not. But Nick Fury was kind of like the U.S.'s answer to James Bond, more than likely. So, a few things, guys. Good movie. Great popcorn. Nice action. You know, it plays well. That's a lot of what I took away from it. Now, is it a movie? I always say, what's my criteria for a good movie? You know, it's, would I go see the movie again? Would I go see the movie again? And that's my big issue. And the short answer to that is no. I would not go see this movie again. I don't put a lot of stock in these tie-in movies, I look at them as almost like, you know, it's kind of like Thor Ragnarok. They're a little off to the right, a little off to the left. You know, it is what it is. So my suggestion to all you guys is go see it. Go see it for what it is. And treat it for what it is. I would not put a lot of weight on it being like this big standalone epic adventure movie that you'll go back and watch a couple times. I would go back and watch Guardians of the Galaxy a couple times. I would go back and watch, like if Guardians of the Galaxy was on, I would leave it on. So, stuff like that. That's my take. My suggestion to a lot of you guys is treat this for what it is. Go see it with your friends. You know, it kind of was what it was. My overall grade for it's probably like, as far as the Marvel movies go, I think it's like the worst to second to worst one. It ties it all in nicely, gives you some answers, but it sort of is what it is. But I hope you guys all go see it. I hope you guys get some understanding of kind of how it all fits in. You know, I have some issues. Yeah, I mean, Semi-Auto Kid, I hate to be harsh. I have some issues with the second Iron Man. I thought the second Iron Man was a little like, you know. I felt like you could take the second Iron Man movie out completely and it wouldn't affect you. It wouldn't affect you. So it could is what it is what it is. But I wouldn't put it as bad as like a DC movie. And I feel like the DC universe is like a fucking mess. But I wouldn't put it that bad. As far as answering a lot of the questions you might have had about Captain Marvel has a very checkered past. And the reason I have issues with it as a standalone movie, it's a comic book that's been rebooted a few times. It's a comic book that's been, you know, kind of back on its heels. And if people have followed anything having to do with Captain Marvel, you can see that it's sort of like one of those things that it's never been able to stand alone even as a comic book. So even as a comic book, it's had trouble. And they've had multiple people. Seeing as we're all thing, did you see the new Spider-Man movie? It's like a cartoonish version. Yeah, I didn't see that. I thought that was just more for the kids. What's not true? I don't even bother with DC anymore after Batman versus Superman. Well, I'm saying I don't think DC is that exciting. But as far as Captain Marvel goes, and as far as the comic book goes, it's a very bastardized, you know, character. So my issues with it, and it getting its own standalone deal is there's been, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, 7 different versions. So, you know, it's kind of like, what the fuck? Batman's definitely a superhero. Batman's the most plausible superhero if we were to, you know. He's the most plausible. Rich emo kid with cool toys. Yeah, but that's not true. If you're going to be a junkie for this stuff, he's not a rich emo kid. This is why the Dark Knight series was so critical. He actually goes to Ra's al Ghul and he gets they talk about the training in the Dark Knight series, because for years people worried about, you know, where he got his training. So his training was, well, his gadget, he's the most plausible though. So he went and he got trained as a ninja, okay, by the League of Shadows. And I think that's a really cool story. You know what I mean? That's a really cool story because it makes it plausible. Superman's fake. Wolverine's fake. Iron Man and Batman could be real. You know? It's just, you have to take it as like what's plausible and what's not. And if you're one of those guys, you know, I like the idea of plausibility. Batman grew up alone. Just because he had money doesn't mean much. He had a lot of suffering. He was an orphan. Yeah, I mean, he has a cool backstory. You know, he has a very rich backstory. And Batman benefits from having absolutely the best villains. So Batman has a lot of benefits. Now, back to Captain Marvel. Part of my issue with Captain Marvel is Captain Marvel was meant to be the Marvel's answer to Superman. So that was like the original meant to be. The issue I have with it, and an issue I have with it getting a standalone movie or being a huge part of this whole genre or this whole story with the Infinity Gauntlet, is it's kind of like basically a bastard character. So there's been, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different Captain Marvels. 6 different Captain Marvels. And, you know, there's been Marvel, there's been this, there's been that. I just have a little bit of issue with that whole continuity and that whole lineage when you have to reboot a comic into multiple different characters. It's like whoever is laying around, oh, well, we'll make them Captain Marvel. We'll throw them up. So the Carol Danvers incarnation is the one you get. And Carol Danvers is played by a Brie Larson, and she starts out as a member of Star Force and all that. Doesn't know her name, doesn't know her origin, and then they peel into a lot of that, and they peel into the origins of S.H.I.E.L.D. without getting too into it. So it sort of is it has a little campiness to it. It's a feel-good movie. And basically, long story short, it ends with the pager that you see Nick Fury with at the end of the last Avengers. Like, you know, that's like how he calls her. And that's kind of where it is. Now, it ties everything in nicely. You have to see it. To say some of these prequels you could predict the ending very easily is an easy shot. But you can predict the ending very easily. Her powers are basically on par, if not the same, as Superman. Instead of shooting the heat signature from her eyes, she shoots it from her fists. You know, that's kind of how it goes. I enjoyed the movie, didn't love the movie. Go see it, form your own opinions. You know, yes, Banyan, good question. Getting to the whole Avengers Endgame thing, I have very high hopes. I have very high hopes as to how that's going to play out. Obviously, we know how Avengers Endgame and how the Infinity Gauntlet ends. We all know the ending. It's a comic book that's been out. I have my theories on how they'll play it out in a movie, and I think it's going to be really simple. I think the way it plays out is they're going to find a way to get Ant-Man out. Ant-Man's going to get out, and I think there's going to be a tie-in with the Time Stone. They're going to be able to get access to there's going to be something where Doctor Strange initiated the Time Stone, because that's going to be an easier tie-in. Because I think the biggest piece of evidence to that was he looks at Tony and he says, that's the only way. You know? So, that's the only way. It's very significant, and I think that's going to be the easiest tie-in without getting it too technical and bringing too many characters into it that the movie can't really support. So the premise of it is going to be obviously to get the stones back. And I think what will happen, there'll be some sacrifice to get the soul stone, and they'll probably have to do something to begin to reverse that whole process. And I think that you'll see that unfold. But I think the time stone will have a huge component to do with it, and so on and so forth. A lot of people, it's easy. You're going to listen to a lot of reviews on YouTube. You're going to listen to a lot of reviews on these different platforms. And what's going to happen is they're going to try to follow the comic book. You can't follow the comic book because there's characters like the Warlock. There's a whole bunch of other characters that have not been introduced, that have not been involved, in any of that. Some theories were that Captain Marvel had something to do with the Endgame. I think that could be true. But I think that it's just going to be an easier tie-in because you have to, just like Semi-Auto Kid's saying, you only have 2 hours to work with in a movie. So there's going to have to be some creative liberties with how it's going to play out. So I think you're going to see it almost reboot, almost like a dream sequence. You're going to see it almost reboot. And maybe some people will remember it and maybe some people won't. And you're going to see it, kind of backpedal. And you'll see the characters come back, and then you'll see what's left of the Avengers because a lot of these people aren't signed on for more movies. So I don't like getting too much into, theories, and here's what I think, and here's what the comic book says, and here's how it's going to play out. I just know they have 2 hours to work with. They're going to have to use a simple tie-in, and it's going to have to be really a lot easier than people think. And they're going to have to tie it all in. And they're probably only going to have about 45 minutes of the 120 minutes that they're going to have to work with to do this, to pull it off. That's going to be where it's going to be. And it'll probably end with, Thanos walking in a field. I doubt he'll die. I'm sure the Hulk will make a comeback and all that. So they'll have that. There's some things that they've kept in their back pocket. So it's sort of going to play out probably how a lot of us think. But a lot of these characters aren't signed on for more movies. I believe the entire crew from Guardians of the Galaxy signed on for one more. I think you have one or two people. I believe there's going to be another Iron Man movie, standalone. Yeah, there'll never be a TV series. That's like pie in the sky. I think a lot of these people want to be done with these characters, and I can understand why. I'm sure Chris Hemsworth wants to go on and play other roles. I'm sure Mark Ruffalo wants to go on and play other roles. I know Chris Evans wants to go on and play other roles. I mean, these people are big stars. They're actors. They want to do other stuff. Some of these guys have a lot of range, and they want to do different things. So, I'm sure that that's all coming to a head. The hardest person to play another role is going to end up being Robert Downey Jr. because everybody's going to know him as Iron Man because he's played it so fucking well. He is Iron Man. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark. Till the day he dies. It's kind of hard to see certain people in different roles, and he's one of them. So it kind of is what it is. So it kind of is what it is. Does Marvel any other TV shows other than S.H.I.E.L.D.? No. Marvel's one of those series, guys, it's too hard to put it on TV. I liked The Punisher Season 1. I thought The Punisher Season 2 was shit. I thought Season 2 was garbage. Season 1 was good. I feel like a lot of them are good for a season. Season 2 sucked. Daredevil, I thought was okay. Season 1 sucked after that. Just because the Daredevil thing is just a hard thing for me to grab onto. But I'm really harsh, dude. I have a hard time grabbing onto some of these characters because I think that they leave much to be desired. And we're used to them in the comic book. And you want to see those crossovers. Like, how you don't see, and the Punisher is the hardest one for me because you talk about a guy who it's such a difficult tie-in because in the comic book, you know, it's just hard for me. Yeah, Punisher season 1 was badass. Season 2 could have been much. I mean, season 2 to me, Semi-Auto Kid just had no tie-ins. It just had no tie-ins, and they beat that story to death. You know, they beat that story to death. That whole story of him and his old partner, and just like fuck. Like I wanted them to move on from it. I'm like, let it go, let it go, move on. So that's my take on Captain Marvel. That's my take on where the Infinity Gauntlet will go. They have to wrap it up. They have to put it to bed. Oh my God, the original Daredevil movie with Ben Affleck was fucking hideous, dude. It was hideous. Yeah, all they had was the Russo story, and I thought that was just so fucking, give me a break. But I think, you know, to put a wrap on this, and I wanted to do a show it live tonight. And by the way, everybody's still eligible for the Canik pistol. Make sure that you head online, head to YouTube, share, like, and subscribe. Yeah, I mean, that Daredevil gets made fun of. It's right up there with the Green Lantern. It's fucking terrible. It's hideous. So the problem with Daredevil is he's a very campy character too, and I hate campy characters. Very campy. So it sort of is what it is. But I hope everybody understands where I'm coming from. Everybody has opinions. I respect yours, Banyan. I respect Semi-Auto Kids. You know, I like you guys' opinions. I support, you know, whatever decisions you guys make after you see it, and I'll look forward to hearing them. But I want everybody to have a good weekend. Make sure that you enter to win the Canik. Make sure that you tune in. I am open for business on Sunday, and we're going to be giving away a Canik pistol. So make sure you turn on notifications, and make sure that you stay tuned. If you guys get the opportunity, please thank the sponsors: Riton Optics, Kenzies Optics, Taurus USA, and Crossbreed Holsters. I will be back on probably on Sunday, maybe record a quick one tomorrow. But I hope everybody understands all my opinions. They're just mine. If you don't agree with them, you can tell me to go fuck myself. But I hope everybody kind of forms their own, and I'm going to look forward to hear them. And I just want to give everybody my MCU updates and what I thought of Captain Marvel. I'm going to head out, sign off. Make sure you enter to win the Canik pistol. Make sure you head over to YouTube, share, comment, and thumbs up on everything. And I appreciate everybody's time, and I hope everybody has a great weekend. We are out.